Welcome to the Fantasy Fling DFS channel.
What is going on? It's Fantasy Fling here for your UFL Week 5 first look over on Draftkings. Last week went pretty well. Another profitable week. And, of course, we are back yet again to look at another crazy slate for all you sickos like myself who love to play UFL. So let's go ahead and jump into this slate, guys. All right, so we're going to start off with the Vegas lines. And here we are. So wanted to do Fox Sports, make it a little easier to log into DraftKings. But last week we saw some higher totals, and this week they're coming down a little bit. And, you know, last week it's funny because the totals were high, but none of the games were really that high. So this week I think is more a return to normalcy. I think last week is more so to do with the sports books overreacting to the week before and not trying to be killed with the over and unders. So this week we have first off San Antonio going against Arlington. We saw Dormady last week. He kind of was a chalk fail. He did okay because he was only 6K and got 13 points. You know, still hit over 2x the salary, and none of the other quarterbacks really did much. But, you know, we certainly expected more. This week is a great spot for him to bounce back in that offense as they go against an Arlington team that has just been terrible. So, you know, really by every metric, they've been giving up yards both on in the rushing game and the passing game. They've given up about 27 yards per game. So, yeah, I think the San Antonio offense is definitely going to be one to target this week. We're going to expect it to be chalky. So we're going to get into that and look for leverage spots in this game. And that, you know, they are favored, San Antonio. And the next one we have is Birmingham as big favorites. Yet again, surprise, surprise. Birmingham, they're 4-0. They're just unreal, really. They're the most well-rounded team in the league. Certainly, you know, there's debate whether they're the best offense, but from top to bottom, as of right now, they're the best team in the league. They're 7.5-point favorites going against Houston. They were 0-3. They finally snuck out a win last week, thanks in part to Mark Thompson. Dude just made a defender look silly near the goal line, in the red zone, juked him out, got a touchdown. Arlington couldn't get anything going offensively, and Houston ran away with that one. Reed Sinet looked pretty good as well. So they might have found something on their offense, but this is a tough matchup. Can they get the upset? Well, if they can, there's one guy I think they're going to ride. We're going to get into that in a little bit. St. Louis Battlehawks, they are 3-point favorites. This is a 47-point total. So this is the highest total on the slate. You know, we got a couple 42.5 games. And for good reason, St. Louis, they literally just march down the field and get a lot of points. So predicting who those fantasy points are going to go to has been difficult, but nonetheless, their offense just continues to move the ball at will. Sometimes they've struggled in the red zone. I really think that a big performance is coming from AJ McCarron soon. They just got to clean a couple things up, and some of this touchdown variance needs to regress in a positive way for AJ McCarron. And I do think it's coming. So they're 3-point favorites. And this matchup sets up good for them on both sides. DC defenders, they're another team. They're just not very good defensively. I think they're giving up an average of 25 points per game. So this is another great matchup for St. Louis. And there's reason why it's the highest total on the slate. We got a great offense going against a pretty poor defense. So this game could certainly hit the over as well. And then last, we got Michigan as 2-point dogs to Memphis, 40.5. Not a lot that I really love from this game from a stacking perspective. I think there's going to be pieces that we want to look at. You know, Marcus Sims, the league leader right now in the UFL in receiving. On the Memphis side, their offense has been terrible. Last week, was very tilting because Titus Swin is number one on the RB depth chart, right? And then Darius Victor gets basically the start. He gets all the touches, all the carries. So, we can't even predict the running back right in this offense. And then offensively, Case Cook has just got killed. He got hurt. I'm not sure if he's going to play. But based on the hit, I would say probably not, but who knows? Maybe he will play. But there's not really a lot there that if he does play, I think it obviously opens up the offense a bit more. Jonathan Adams, we saw him disappear last week without Cookus. They couldn't do anything in the passing game, so it was basically all Darius Victor. David Davis didn't nothing. We did see Vinny Papel gets another touchdown as that continues. But other than that, not a ton. On the Michigan side, as we get into quarterbacks, in fact, we're going to see that, we might have a backup quarterback this week. All right, so let's go over to Draftkings and we'll start to get a contest here. By the way, the contests are going to be much better this week. Really loving it so far. Looks like the Sunday slate is now up. I have to take a look at that. But we got some higher stakes contests. We got a 5K to first. So they're doing. The contests are looking a lot better, and that's for the Saturday slate. But we're gonna kind of hop over to the main slate. Make sure we get all these. Let's look at the SPY. This is the $100 small field. By the way, these are the kind of contests you really want to live in. These small field stuff, much easier to take down. But as we get into quarterbacks, we got the top dogs. Right now, AJ McCarron, and I'll kind of look at my sheet here a little bit. These are something I post in the Discord for our DFS Army subscribers. This is just my cheat sheet that I keep as a running tally of, what's happening each and every week. I do it week by week basis, of course. And then you just kind of look at the averages and see, who's the most consistent, who's getting the most attempts, how is that translating into fantasy points and whatnot. So you see AJ McCarron has been far away the top quarterback this year with 8 touchdowns, 1 interceptions. He has averaged 21 DK points. And like I said, I really think an eruption is coming at some point. We'll see when that's going to happen, but, need a little bit of positive touchdown regression on his part. So, it's really been AJ McCarron. As far as passing game goes, Chase Garbers was certainly up there. EJ Perry is getting there from the rushing side, but that's about it. He hasn't really added anything offensively as a quarterback, passing 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So it's probably going to be more AJ McCarron this week. We got 1 game of Doherty so far, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, but did have a lot of attempts, had a lot of passing yards. We could certainly expect the touchdowns to be there at some point. And I think AJ McCarron will continue to be the top dog. Now, looking at ownership projections earlier, and you can kind of see probably why AJ McCarron is he's now 10-9. So he's not expected to be the highest owned quarterback this week. And I think salary factors into that. Despite having 21 points per game, he's 11,000. So it's going to be difficult to pay off his salary, and specifically because we don't know who to stack him with at this point. As we get into running backs, they got all 3 running backs involved last week. And he's got so many pass catchers to throw the ball to now. So it's going to be difficult week to week to nail down that stack. But definitely, like if you're playing cash games, I would just lock AJ McCarron in at 10-9. You want those for your double ups, of course, or, small field, single entry. I think he's still the best option. So, seeing him high, about a fourth of the field is projected to play him this week. But Quentin Dormany, the other guy that I really like in this spot, he's actually projected for the most ownership going against Arlington. These are the 2 quarterbacks that I think really have just the best pathway to the nuts this week, to that winning lineup over on DK. We got St. Louis versus DC. So AJ McCarron, DC, they are allowing 244 yards per game in the passing game. They're allowing 24 points per game, and they're just rated really poorly in coverage with a 57 PFF score. So I think with the highest total, AJ McCarron's the guy that I'm going to lean on most this week, specifically because Dormady is getting the most amount of ownership. And I think, from a direct leverage standpoint, I'm going to try to attack that game just a little differently and go more towards the running backs. But I think Dormady is going to be a great play this week as well. If you do play Dormady, I think you're going to look to get off of Kirkland this week. Despite Kirkland being a top play every week, he's projected for a lot of ownership. He's really expensive, as we're going to get into, and that's really how you leverage the field. But Dormady has a fantastic matchup. He's going against Arlington. They're allowing 27 points per game, and they have a 48 PFF score in coverage. So they've just been really terrible, and I think this is a great bounce back spot for Dormady. Now, one thing about him is you can see his salary is only $9K, so he's about $2K less than AJ McCarron. He does not have to outscore AJ McCarron to have tournament winning value. He could probably get 25. AJ McCarron gets 30. He's in the nuts. So keep that in mind. Other couple of quarterbacks as we finish out the quarterbacks here that I might look to target this week. If we know that we're getting Adrian Martinez, I would like him, or Matt Corral. If we get word that, one of these guys is actually going to play the full game, both of these guys are in a good matchup going against Houston. Houston, they're allowing 25 points per game. We know Birmingham, what they're capable of putting up a lot of points. Last week it was Matt Corral, surprisingly, after Adrian Martinez broke the slate the week before. And then, we would expect Adrian Martinez. They said they're kind of going to rotate these guys. So maybe he gets the nod this week. But, in week 2, he had, I believe, 33 points. In fact, let's go to my sheet here. No, it was week 3. He had 33 points. So he broke the slate. He had 2 touchdowns, 334 yards passing. He added rushing 44 yards and 1 touchdown. He had 33 points. So if we get word that they are going back to Adrian Martinez, I would be very much interested in him as well. But let's go ahead and move it along to the running backs. Okay. So running back has really been where you've lost this year. And I say that because, once again, I had a lineup in a lot of contests, several lineups in a lot of contests that were really close to winning a GPP. And like last week, my top performing lineup, for example, had Titus Swin, finished 28th in the 10K to first. And that was with a fraction of a point from Titus Swin, because he was listed as number 1 on the depth chart. So we would have thought he would get the bulk of the carries. And if he did, probably would have won that tournament because it was only 8% owned. Well, that's not what happened. So that just goes to show what it has been this year at running back. And I think we're really just going to be playing one running back builds for the most part. So most of your lineups, you're going to just want to have one running back. As you see, we have the flex spots here. You can put them in, but it's just been terrible. So I'm sticking to one running back builds. So I don't get burned, because that has been the position that's been just terrible to figure out. Secondly, I think we're looking for good matchups. We're looking for pay down options. And, we are looking for guys that we know are really good. For example, Mark Thompson. Now, I don't love the matchup this week, guys. And, I think we're probably going to want to not have a lot of Mark Thompson this week just based on the matchup. But Birmingham's going to lose at some point. And, the scenario where Houston actually can win this game is they ride Mark Thompson and he has a good game. And Birmingham could still win the game. And even, they can win the game if Houston is, still scoring with Mark Thompson because they have enough firepower to match them. However, I think, in this situation, Mark Thompson is a guy that I want to get some exposure to because we saw it last week. And you look at the stats and it's not amazing, but the way he set up his defender and just totally made him look silly on a play that, really wasn't that open for a touchdown. He made a touchdown out of this guy scored 14 touchdowns last year in 7 games. So he's a beast. He's the guy I want exposure to. This is how they win. And I think they should ride him. So he's probably the top guy for me. Other than that, there are a couple other considerations. So if we look, CJ Marable had a terrible week last week. And really the guys, and I think this is kind of what we want to look at the averages for running back specifically. You want to kind of target guys who are just really outperforming their salary and have been consistent every week. Ricky Pearson is going to be a good guy. I think this week is heavy favorites, 7.5-point favorites. He's really been the better back for Birmingham, which has been surprising because Marable was awesome last year. But he's averaged more yards per carry. He's getting the tutties. He's got 3 touchdowns. He's doing more through the air, 128 yards off of 10 targets. So he's been extremely effective. 13.9 DK points per game, 7,100 versus 9,000. So Pearson's a guy that I'm going to want to get a lot of exposure to this week based on the pay down and being 7-point favorites. So I think, it's a pretty good matchup, just being the big favorites. Let's kind of see. I'll take a look here. Houston, as far as their run game, they are one of the better teams in the league, actually. It's stopping the run. However, Pearson adds enough through the air that I think you want to target that, and you always want to target big favorites. So won't get crazy with it, but we'll have them in the mix. Now, McFarland, he was out last week, and I think he's got a shoulder injury going on. Let's see. Yeah, I think it was a shoulder injury. Yeah, it's not saying on here. But this is a good matchup going against San Antonio. San Antonio has actually been pretty poor against the run, surprisingly. They've given up an average of 94 points per game. Or I'm sorry, going against Arlington. Yeah, got this backwards. Arlington has been the worst team against the run. In fact, pull that up right here. They are giving 109 yards per game over the season. So it's been pretty poor for them. And I think if McFarland is back this week, I love him in this spot because he's not projected to get a lot of ownership. Dormady is getting a lot of ownership. His pass catchers are getting a lot of ownership. Obviously, with the injury concern, I wouldn't expect McFarland to get any type of ownership at this point. But if he's back, he's a guy that I really do like. The other guy, I think that showed up well for us last week, John Lovett. Now he's projected to get quite a bit of ownership as well. But I think that is mainly because McFarland is out. So if McFarland does play, I would like him. If he doesn't play, I think you can mix in a little bit of John Lovett as well. The other matchup I want to target, and it's been so difficult to figure out, and I don't know. If you're playing single entry, you might just want to avoid this. But if you are playing a lot of lineups, we got St. Louis going against DC. DC is allowing 94 yards per game. And the problem is it's been very difficult for St. Louis running backs to figure out which one's going to get the work. However, Jacob Saylor's in 3 games, guys, 172 yards. off of 28 attempts, 6.1 yards per carry. He's gotten a touchdown. He's gotten targets, 11 targets, 54 yards. So he's averaging 15 DK points, which is number one in this league right now. And it's just really hard to ignore that on a team as favorites with, a ton of firepower that just seems to be consistently using him through 3 games. So he's a guy that I certainly will add into the mix this week. And, I think the price is still pretty cheap. Where is he at? There he is, 7,300. So, yeah, you could certainly play him. You can even stack him with AJ McCarron if you wanted to. So you can certainly play him this week. I would mix in some Mateo Durant as well. Mateo, let's see how involved he was last week. I don't really think he was that involved. Yeah, he got one. I mean, he was actually hardly involved last week. But just with the variance of this league, I would take a couple shots with Mateo Durant as well because he was the RB1 last week. And the week before, he smashed. So, it's just been terrible as far as running back goes. Play one running back, mix it up a little bit. I would mix in some Letty Brown and Devion Smith because San Antonio hasn't been very good against the run either. Both of those guys have been contributing. In fact, if we look at the average numbers here, Devion Smith, 8.5 points per game, and then Letty Brown, 8.6. So, or 8.4. So these are numbers that you can stomach. You can't stomach a half point from Titus Swin crashing your lineup that, could have won a GPP. If you get a 5 or a 6 from a guy like Letty Brown, who's, 6K, you could definitely stomach that. So, mix it up with those guys as well. And then let's go ahead and move on to wide receivers and tight ends, our pass catchers. And we'll finish this up. Okay. So last week we saw a guy come out of nowhere, but really if you watched, if you played XFL, he didn't come out of nowhere. This was the league leading wide receiver last year in the XFL. He's a machine. He got 10 targets in his first game off of injury, 70 yards. He got a tutty, 22 DK points. He's not going away. Now, he may have a down week, but he's not going away. He's going to be a focal point of this offense. And I tell you this, I think what is going to happen, though, is you're going to see a lot less of Darius Shepherd. So, Darius Shepherd, we saw him go from, let's see. Let's look at his game logs. We saw him go from 9 targets, 5 to 9 to 3, and then 3. So back-to-back weeks, or 4 targets, 3 receptions. Back-to-back weeks, he has only gotten 4 targets, and that's not good. And with Pearson in the lineup, the thing with Pearson is he plays almost exclusively out of the slot, and Shepherd plays a lot out of the slot as well. So for me, that's very concerning. He played, let's see his numbers here. It was a pretty bad week for him. Yeah, so he did see a dip in the amount that he played out of the slot. Now, they were aligning Pearson up at wide sometimes, so they were moving him all over the field. So you may still have some weeks where you're going to get Shepherd, gets a touchdown, and maybe Pearson does as well, and they both finish decently. But Pearson is definitely going to cut into Shepherd's ceiling. And based on what I saw, that's going to be a void for me. Now, I'm not sure how much ownership Pearson is going to get this week. Let me see if I can find him actually. Yeah, he's projected for under 20%. So on a 4-game slate, that's pretty good. But yeah, I think I'm going to be avoiding Shepherd. I think Butler is going to be safe in this offense. We saw him last week pretty heavily involved. In fact, he got 8 receptions, 9 targets. He's going to be a guy that's kind of more of a focal point. We saw Aitman come down a little bit from what we saw the weeks before. In back-to-back weeks, he started the season really good, and we're like, this is not going to continue. Like, he's a good player. He's going to have his boom weeks, but he is not going to be an every week guy. And that's exactly what we've seen. So he had 1 point in week 3, 4 points last week. There's just too many mouths to feed. Aitman's a guy I'm going to mix into my AJ stacks each and every week, but he's not a core play. He's not a must play. So just keep that in mind. I think, the guys I'm going to be trying to get to the most are going to be Butler and Pearson, and certainly going to mix in Pierce, like Sailors and Mateo Durant's on that team as well. And God, we even saw Wayne Gallman last week. So Sailors is a guy I'm probably trying to really get to. I really wouldn't mix it up much more than that for their running backs. But Pearson, Shepard, to a lesser degree, Butler, Moore, and Aitman, a guy that I would mix in. And geez, sometimes even Sutherland gets involved. The hardest thing with AJ McCarron is predicting who is going to get the tutties that week. And you might just have to play might just lock in AJ McCarron and just play him each and every week. And that over the course of the season, he's eventually going to be the nuts, and you're going to have that right combination because he was the nuts quarterback last week, and he will have several more weeks like that for sure. Now, going on to other pass catchers this week that I like. Tyler Vaughn's really disappointed us last week, but could be a decent bounce back spot for him after he burned everyone. I don't know what was going on with Tyler Vaughn's last week, because Peyton didn't get involved either. You would have thought if Vaughn's is having a down week, Peyton is having a good week. Well, the offense was just terrible last week. I'm just going to throw out what we saw because it just didn't look like Arlington's offense. So 4 targets last week. Yeah, he had 1 reception, 12 yards, just not good. But he's a guy I think you'll go back to in GPPs. He's not going to be a core play. He's not going to be an all-in play. But I think, you probably go back to him. Some other matchups, we brushed on St. Louis a little bit. The main one is Jontre Kirkland. Now, guys, I love Kirkland. He's a beast. I will be playing him. However, Kirkland is now up to 10-5. He's projected for 33% ownership from what I'm seeing right now. So a third of the field is projected to play him. That is not something that I am looking to chase. Dormady, I think, is going to be chalk. Kirkland's going to be chalk. I think the way that you avoid that chalk, you get different, is you play Latimer, you play Justin Smith again, because maybe he has chemistry with Latimer. And I don't love chasing stuff, but when the field is going to be off of him and he's only projected for 10% ownership and he's 4,600, yeah, I will go right back to him. Marcus Stevenson, he's projected for half the ownership of Kirkland. So love Kirkland. We're seeing 8+ targets every week. I think you could play Kirkland. I'm just not playing him with Dormady. So just keep that in mind. He's going to be highly owned, but he's a great play. Adams is another guy. If there's no Cookus, I don't want any of Adams. Saw 0 targets last week, which we had seen him get 5 or more targets every single week. Well, 0 last week without Cookus. But if Cookus is back, I think you can go back to him in GPPs. All right, let's get a couple other guys. Latimer. Now, Latimer didn't obviously pop for us last week, but he's a guy that actually really like this week again because he was targeted a lot last week with Dormady in the offense. He got 7 targets, and he's projected for, again, half the ownership of Kirkland. So I might not have a single Dormady Kirkland lineup this week and just go for these leveraged spots. So I think it could be a Latimer week. The tutty wasn't there last week, but the volume certainly was as far as being targeted. A couple of the guys I like. If we get Adrian Martinez back this week, love me some Deion Kane. We saw way less usage from week 3, Adrian Martinez, down to week 4, Matt Corral. So if we get Martinez back, I would be back on Deion Kane as big favorites in this game against Houston. Daywoo Davis, same thing. If Cook is back, I would have interest in him. Papali, some point, touchdown regression cannot continue. So I don't know. Guys. That just seems crazy to me that he's caught that many touchdowns. I'm not chasing that again. Marcus Sims is a guy that I want. I want exposure to every single week. Show you real quick. I don't really know what they're doing with his pricing. And I haven't finished my wide receiver sheet, as you can tell. But Marcus Sims is the league leader right now in the UFL. 22 targets. He's been so efficient. And the thing that I like about him, and the reason I think it's going to continue to be repeatable, is he does a lot after the catch. So he's only got 13 receptions and 281 yards, but a lot of it's been after the catch. He's just an elite talent. He's got 3 touchdowns, 14.8 DK points, and he's 6,100. So he's really underpriced. He's a guy that I want exposure to every week. By the way, guys, if you like this kind of content, please hit that like button. It really helps. Let me know who you like this week. I'm interested to see. I'm still, thinking about the slate. So let me know who you like this week. What stack you're targeting. Let me know in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you never miss an episode. We do these UFL first look videos each week. And then after this, as soon as UFL is over, going right into NFL content. Best ball, do preseason NFL DFS, regular season NFL DFS, do daily drafts. So love the daily drafts. Big fan of those. A lot of edge there. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of that content coming down the road. Kelvin Harmon, he's really solidified himself as the number 1 target for Jordan Tiamu. So last 2 weeks, 6 targets. So really 3 out of 4 weeks, he's had 6 targets, and he's been producing. Had a great catch and run last week. He's a guy I think I like at his salary, 6,300. He's averaging, about 10 DK points per game. So he will definitely be one of my mid-price guys that I really like. As far as some of the cheaper guys, Roland has been very involved as of lately in DC as well. And he's scored tutties in back-to-back weeks, and he's 4,700. You cannot ask for anything better than that. He's getting targets, touchdowns, 4,700. And they're probably going to be trailing and needing to throw a lot. So I expect that to continue. Javonta Payton, he's a guy stacks of that game. So maybe the way you're looking to get different, if you do play Kirkland, you do a Javonta Payton bring back. So last week, again, it was very concerning for him as well. Again, I'm just going to kind of throw out what we saw last week. Emmanuel Butler has been pretty involved with Sinet at the helm. Got a touchdown last week. We like to see that. The yards weren't there, but they were the 2 prior weeks before, especially week 3. So, he's a cheapo. I think you want to make sure you have some decent exposure to some of these 3 to 4K guys who can get touchdowns and get regular volume. So, yeah, I think that's more or less going to wrap it up for this week. And then let's kind of look at defense real quick. You can obviously go Stallions. They kind of burned us last week. Let's see what ownership is looking like for defense. Yeah, Stallions projected to be the highest owned again. Houston's been better, but they're big favorites. So, yeah, I would definitely target a little bit of that. If we don't get Cookus this week, or even if we do, because that offensive line has been so terrible, and Michigan has a decent defense. I think you could play Michigan for sure at 4,300. Let's take a look at the defenses averaging the most fantasy points per game. Who's been consistent? So Birmingham has gotten a lot of sacks. That's one thing I really like to target: sacks and interceptions. Houston been ball hawking a little bit. Battlehawks as well. The Brahmas get a lot of sacks as well under Wade Phillips. These are average DK points per game. So really, Memphis, Stallions, the Brahmas, that's kind of been the top three, of course. And San Antonio, we got them going against Arlington this week. So, yeah, that would probably be my favorite play, just looking at this slate at the first look. And then, obviously mix in some Brahmas, some showboats, some of the other defenses. But, I guess let's try to make a quick lineup, right? Then we'll finish this up. Let's do Roland. All right, let's see how much salary we got left. We got 9,200 left. Boom. AJ McCarron, triple stack with Sailors, Pearson, Butler. We got Roland Sims and the Roughnecks. So that could definitely be a lineup you'd play. And you guys, by the way, last thing, I do a cheat sheet every week. Look at the entire slate, look at all the numbers, look at ownership projections. I take that all into account. I do a cheat sheet with DFS Army. So one good thing about DFS Army, Core 4 membership gets you access to UFL. So you're not just paying for UFL. Some people charge like as much as $25 a week for UFL. DFS Army, Core 4 membership, $90 a month, NBA, and MLB, NHL, and NFL. And this obviously gets you, Core 4 membership gets you access to UFL. If you guys love spring football, you want to play some CFL as well, that's coming up. So I will put a free offer in the video to get you a month free. And then if you decide, hey, I just want to try it out, let's just do it now, I don't want the free month, well, you can use code FANTASYFEELING for 10% off a VIP subscription. So that's going to wrap it up this week, guys. Really thank you for joining me. We will see you soon. Best of luck. Let's win some money this week.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to smash that like button and subscribe. You don't want to miss what's coming next. We really appreciate it. And we'll catch you in the next episode right here on the Fantasy Fling DFS